Unconscious finger swipes, glazed over eyes, Insta, Netflix, YouTube, then back to Insta again. The truth is, you do not always pick up your phone because you actually want to watch something. Most of the time, you are just trying to fill an empty space in your mind. A quiet moment, a restlessness, an extremely uncomfortable feeling called boredom. But in the end, what is boredom? A glitch in the brain? A sign that you are just too hard to please? The truth is the reality behind this uneasy feeling is far more complicated than you might think. It is not simply a bad emotional state, it is a tricky cognitive puzzle that we often ignore. That is why boredom is not boring at all. And today we are going to decode a question that seems simple but gets stranger the deeper you dig. Why do humans get bored? Welcome back to Apex. Let us find out. To understand what boredom really is, we have to compare it with other uncomfortable feelings humans have to deal with. Think about physical pain, throwing up, or the feeling of heartbreak. They are awful, but their existence makes perfect sense. Sharp pain warns you about a fire that could burn your skin. Nausea stops you from eating more rotten, poisonous food. The pain of a broken heart reminds you how important social bonding is. All of those feelings, as terrible as they are triggered by dangerous, serious, and very real things in the outside world. But what about boredom? Think back to the last time you were sitting in an airport with a dead phone or forced to listen to a lecture so dull it made your brain go numb. You were completely safe. No fire, no poison, no one threatening you. Boredom shows up when you are disconnected from the outside world and forced to stay with your own inner world. You are stuck with yourself. And strangely enough, your mind does not like that. It gets restless. It gets uncomfortable. This brings us to a huge paradox. Arthur Schopenhauer, a great philosopher, once said something like this: if life, the craving for which is the very essence of our being, were possessed of any positive intrinsic value, there would be no such thing as boredom at all. Mere existence would satisfy us in itself, and we should want for nothing. But clearly, it is not. Existing is never enough for humans. If you give a dog a full belly and a warm place to lie down, it will happily stay there all day. But if you put a human in a comfortable room and tell them they are not allowed to do anything, they will lose their mind. Why is there such a difference? Is there something wrong with our brains? Giacomo Leopardi offered a completely opposite point of view. In a letter to his father, he wrote, "Boredom is the most sublime of all human feelings, because it reveals this fact. The human spirit, in a certain sense, is greater than this entire universe. Boredom is not a sign that the world is dull. It is the scream of a transcendent brain craving something bigger. Your brain contains billions of neurons. It hungers for endless needs. And when the current environment cannot meet those needs, it protests. It creates boredom to force you to demand more. We often think that when we are bored, the brain goes on strike, shuts down, and slips into sleep mode. But science paints a completely different picture. When you are bored, your brain activity only drops by about 5%. So, what is the other massive 95% of that energy doing while you sit there yawning? MRI brain scans have revealed an amazing truth. When you are forced into a boring state, a system called the default mode network, or DMN, becomes highly active. Instead of processing information from the outside world, the brain turns inward. So, what does it do? It starts digging through personal memories. It thinks about what other people might be thinking. It shapes ideas and draws up future scenarios. In other words, when you are bored, that is when your brain is imagining. Researcher Jennifer Schuessler pointed out that in biological history, boredom is the root of creativity and self-awareness. It is an imposed state that creates a restless, antsy feeling so strong that you cannot stand sitting still. That restlessness is evolutionary pressure. It forces you to get up and clean the house, write a song, or solve a puzzle just so your mind has something to do. The truth is, without boredom, our ancestors may never have felt the need to step out of the cave and explore the world. However, the truth is that not everyone experiences boredom in the same way. Some people are very patient and can sit still reading for hours, but others only need to sit around doing nothing for 3 minutes before they start squirming like they are sitting on hot coals. Why is that? Science explains this through a tool called the Boredom Proneness Scale, or BPS. Your BPS score shows how easily you fall into a state of boredom. Many studies show that people with strong self-awareness who understand themselves well and can easily name their emotions tend to get bored less often. But the strongest deciding factor lies in neurophysiology, specifically dopamine. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter that plays an important role in motivation, desire, and the feeling of reward. Everyone's brain structure is different. People who are born with dopamine receptor systems that are less sensitive face a major disadvantage. Normal, gentle stimulation in daily life is not enough to create the amount of dopamine they need to feel satisfied. They always need stronger, newer, more intense stimulation to keep their attention. And this is where boredom becomes dangerous. Without enough stimulation, the brain starts to act out in search of anything that can make up for it. Science has shown that chronic boredom is not just an uncomfortable feeling. It is a seed of destruction. The U.S. National Institute on Drug Abuse once released a chilling fact. Long-lasting boredom is one of the top 3 causes of addiction in teenagers. Even more frightening, psychiatrist Norman Doidge pointed out that being trapped in a dull, repetitive environment weakens the dopamine system and directly speeds up brain atrophy. The human brain is a machine that craves information. It craves stimulation so much that it can develop a condition called phasophobia, the extreme fear of boredom. We hate emptiness so much that we would rather hurt ourselves than sit still. Sounds crazy, right? But in 2014, the University of Virginia proved it with a shocking experiment. They placed participants in an empty room with nothing in it. The only instruction was, sit still for 15 minutes, do nothing. However, there was a button on the table. If they pressed it, they would receive an electric shock, a painful feeling that all of them had previously sworn they would pay money to never experience again. The result? In just 15 minutes with nothing to do, 67% of the men and 25% of the women voluntarily pressed the button to shock themselves. One person even pressed it 190 times. This experiment reveals a harsh truth. To the nervous system, clear physical pain is still easier to handle than empty silence. Pain gives the brain something specific to process, while uncertainty becomes a kind of mental torture it cannot stand. If this lack of stimulation is pushed to an even more extreme level, the brain will not stop at choosing pain. It will go crazy in order to survive. Look at the Ganzfeld effect. When a person is placed in a quiet room, their eyes only see a blurry white color. Their ears only hear a repeated hissing sound. No clear images, no meaningful sounds, nothing to hold on to. After only a few minutes of being starved, the panicked brain starts writing and performing its own show by triggering extreme hallucinations, strange moving shapes, invisible whispers, or the paranoid feeling that someone is standing beside them. It would rather create a fake world to fool itself than face an empty silence. But the tragedy is that in the modern world, we do not need a laboratory to become isolated. We lock ourselves inside a much more clever and dangerous cage, the glowing screen. Because the brain is deeply afraid of emptiness, it is always looking for a way to fill it. And we have given it the perfect rescue tool. Every time you feel restless, you immediately pull out your phone. The unconscious swiping begins. Millions of tech engineers have designed short videos and eye-catching images to keep pumping cheap dopamine hits into your brain. The result is a cognitive disaster. Constantly stuffing the brain with high-intensity stimulation has completely damaged your baseline dopamine level. Your satisfaction threshold gets pushed sky-high, making you numb to stimulation. That is why when you put your phone down, real life suddenly feels gray and slow. Escaping boredom through technology does not make you less bored. It only wears down your willpower, causes decision fatigue, and leads straight to emotional numbness in the digital age. At this point, you may be starting to feel a little guilty about your habit of grabbing your phone every time you have a free moment. But, hold on. Wanting to escape dullness is not completely wrong. The problem is this: we are misunderstanding the signal our brain is sending. Boredom was not created to torture you. It was created to protect your mind from toxic things. Psychologist Robert Plutchik once created the Wheel of Emotions, a model that organizes human emotions into different groups and levels of intensity. And in that model, there is one very important detail. Boredom does not stand alone. It is placed on the same axis and is seen as a lighter version of the feeling of disgust. This connection is not random at all. It is the key to decoding boredom. Think about disgust. None of us likes feeling disgusted, but the truth is disgust exists to protect us. It is a brilliant biological defense mechanism. When you see a pool of muddy water, smell rotting meat, or look at a dirty place full of germs, disgust immediately rises up. It twists your face, tightens your stomach, and creates an invisible force that pushes you to step back. Disgust protects your physical body from taking in harmful substances that could kill you. Like a loyal guard, it keeps you on a safe, healthy path. If disgust is the body's bodyguard, then boredom is the mind's bodyguard. Empty, long-winded speeches, repetitive mechanical work that requires no thinking, quiet environments with no change, shallow and dull relationships. These things do not contain physical poison. They do not kill your body, but they are wearing down your intelligence, shrinking your potential, and freezing your growth. Boredom flares up in your mind the same way disgust flares up in your stomach. It appears like a loud alarm, warning you, hey, this environment has no nutrition for your brain. You are wasting your time, wasting your energy, wasting your potential on things that are not worth it. Stop standing still. Go find something newer and more challenging. Getting bored easily is not a character flaw, and it is not a mental disorder. It is a sign of a sharp intelligence, a healthy mind that refuses to accept stagnation. Now we know that, but our habits are going completely against the brain. We rush to put out this dullness with unconscious screen swipes. Instead of letting social media algorithms steal the precious empty spaces where the brain can breathe, it is time for you to take back control of your mind. There are two extremely practical methods based on behavioral psychology that can help you use the power of boredom. 1. Apply the micro-boredom rule. In modern life, we have built a highly toxic automatic reflex, pulling out our phones in every empty moment. You are waiting for the elevator to come down from the 10th floor, you pull out your phone. You are standing in line to buy a cup of coffee, you pull out your phone. You are sitting in a taxi waiting at a red light, you pull out your phone too. We are using our phone screens like an instant painkiller to cover every empty space, never allowing the brain to be truly quiet, not even for a few dozen seconds. Starting today, set a boundary. Build the habit of removing that temporary medicine during short waiting moments. When you are waiting for the elevator, let your phone stay still in your pocket. Just stand there. Feel the restlessness, the gentle uneasiness spreading through your mind. Notice the wood grain on the door. Watch the people walking by, or simply feel the silence. Constantly feeding junk information into these tiny scraps of time is one of the main causes of cognitive overload. By accepting microboredom, you are allowing your dopamine system to breathe. You are slowly resetting your brain's sensitivity, helping it learn how to enjoy the simple and quiet things in real life. 2. The scheduled boredom technique. Do not stay in a passive position waiting for boredom to show up and then scrambling to deal with it. The most productive people are the ones who know how to actively schedule boredom. Every day, set aside 15 to 30 minutes to do something that sounds almost crazy. Cut off every source of incoming information. Turn off your phone, do not play music, do not listen to podcasts, do not read books, do not watch TV. Sit still in a quiet room, or take a slow walk without bringing any electronic device. Let yourself face complete emptiness directly. The first few minutes will be a battle. A brain that is addicted to digital stimulation will scream for instant satisfaction. The restless feeling will rise, but be patient. Once you get past that first uncomfortable bottleneck, something amazing will happen. Because there is no new information to process, the default mode network will officially turn on at full power. The restlessness in your body will now transform into physical energy. Creative ideas that have been buried deep in your subconscious will begin to rise up. The problems and struggles in your work or life that have kept you stuck all week may suddenly start showing clues that help you untangle them. Because when you let the brain become hungry for outside information, it is forced to turn inward, reshaping old knowledge and experiences to create newer, more breakthrough value. As you can see, boredom was never the enemy. It is not a glitch in the brain, and it is not a sign of a dull life. In truth, this quiet, empty space is a chance for you to regain self-control. If you keep putting it out with unconscious screen swipes, you are losing the only space where your mind is free to create. When you remove all the noise from the outside world, boredom forces you to face yourself. It is the first step towards self-awareness, helping you reconnect the inner pieces of yourself so you can become more whole. Not every empty space will instantly create a big idea, but it is always a necessary path. So, the next time boredom knocks on your door, be proud. Do not rush to look for your phone. Be brave enough to step into that quiet emptiness. Let yourself be bored and see what amazing thing your mind will clear the way for next. If this video gave you a new way to look at yourself, do not forget to hit like and subscribe so we can keep decoding more of the deep mysteries of the human mind together. When was the last time you were brave enough to let yourself be bored? Share it in the comments below. Thank you for joining Apex. Goodbye, and we will see you again in the next videos.